That was our first video when we were beginning this ministry. That video is probably 8 years old now, 7, 8 years old. This year we begin our 7th year of actual trips, our 7th season, and it's kind of neat. Paul asked me just to kind of share some stories, and so I'm not really going to preach or speak in that sense. I just want to share with you kind of what this ministry is, and hope that as you go out this summer, as you guys are thinking about heading home, you're going to be in places where you can help us spread the word about this vision, and maybe some of your people could be impacted like some of these folks were. So this ministry is an outgrowth of many things in my life. Being raised on the mission field, being a youth minister, wanting to have a chance for my students to have an international experience and let that shape them and expand their worldview. And I had this idea way back when I was at a church in Oklahoma, but the timing wasn't right. And I actually put that dream on the shelf. And about 8 years ago, actually, Truett and I had coffee over here at Market Street. Remember that, Truett? And we were talking about some other stuff, and we're talking about timing. And sometimes, God gives you a dream or a vision, but it may not be time. And maybe you get frustrated. But really, maybe you're just not ready yet. And I certainly wasn't. I thought I was. But fast forward all these years later, and this vision popped back up in a conversation we were having about something's a good idea, but the timing's not right. And sure enough, this happened. And so Truett was like, has anybody done this in all these years? And I said, not that I know of. And so he said, well, your kids are grown and gone now, Jeff. You have the time. Maybe this should happen. And I thought, no, that ship has sailed. I was the college minister here. Things were going fine. But I couldn't sleep that night. I just couldn't get that dream when God put it back there. And, it was scary. But so anyways, lots of great things have happened since then. And so I thought I want to share with you some stories. But I thought instead of, let me just show you this real quick. This last year, after 6 years of doing this, we've grown from our first year taking one trip and 7 people in 2012. This past summer, we took 144 people to 7 places. Again, all for that one purpose, to go and make disciples, taking disciples and to make disciples. And these are some of the places we went last summer. And in some of those places, some of the folks in this room actually have gone with us on some of those trips. And so I've invited Nathaniel. We talk about 3 P words: people, places, and purpose. That's kind of how we refine and remember what we're all about. So I'm going to ask Nathaniel to come up. He and Bertie went with us last summer to Belize, and I just want him to share some of his stories and the impact it had on him. And then we're going to introduce another speaker in just a minute. Nathaniel?
Yeah, so as Jeff was saying, last year Bertie and I, my wife, got to go to Belize towards the end of July. And that was the first time I had ever been out of the country, so I didn't really know what to expect. And I was pretty tentative before we left, because I'm thinking, I'm your American. I'm an American that's going to go to another culture, and I don't want to make those mistakes that come across as arrogant or ignorant. And I was very, very nervous going there. But before I get to the actual Belize trip, one of the things that really impacted me and Bertie both about DiscipleTrips was, part of DiscipleTrips is raising funds to go somewhere, right? Bertie and I really wanted to go to Belize, but we didn't have any support. I mean, not a single dollar came in. And I think it was 2 weeks before, early July, when I called Jeff and had a conversation with him on the phone. And I said, we don't have any funding for this trip. I don't know. I'm really struggling with this. How do I raise awareness of what we're about to do? And it got to the point where I kind of had to give up control of it. And I told Bertie, I said, you know what? We're going to go, even if that means we pay for it ourselves. Even if it means us dipping into places we need to dip into and pull up the resources. We're going to pay for this trip ourselves if we have to. And it wasn't a day after that I met with the elders of a church that we were interning with for the summer last year in Cushing, Oklahoma. And they raised all the support we needed, and then some. They allowed us to be able to have the resources to drive down to Houston and then fly out. And that was an incredible experience, is just seeing that once you kind of gave up control of it, God took control himself. Another really cool thing about the Disciple Trips program that I was really impressed by is the flight school. Before you actually go to your location, you have to go through a training period. It lasts about a day. And what was really cool about that is you actually got to bond with the people you're going with. The team Birdie and I went with came from different places around the country, so a lot of the people we didn't know. We didn't know most of the people there. A lot of them were young teenage girls as well. So going through the flight school allowed us to break down barriers, to break the ice even before the trip occurred. So that way, by the time we went to Belize, it's almost like we hit the ground running. We already knew each other. We had broken the ice with each other, so we could kind of realize we're going here with the same mission, the same purpose, and work as a team once we got there. Belize, I fell in love with. I fell in love with Belize. Obviously, it's not the United States. It's a third world country. There's a lot of poverty. You realize that the moment you hit the ground. One thing that really impressed me is the fact that despite being so poor, the people there had a different understanding of what poverty meant. To them, poverty meant not having a family, not having a community to belong to. And obviously, material belongings, having material belongings plays a part in poverty. So one of the things we did was, we brought with us resources in which to build an attachment to one of their churches in Dangriga. Or was it Silkgrass? Silkgrass. It was Silkgrass. The Silkgrass Church of Christ. And what was really cool about that, though, is, and one thing I was kind of nervous about, again, is bringing our American culture with us. But one thing I was really impressed by is, even though we brought the resources, we didn't manage it. Once we got there, we basically told the male leadership in the church, this is for you. You tell us what to do. And that was really cool seeing, because one of the problems that the church was communicating to us, and one of the problems it had in Belize was a lack of male leadership, a lack of leadership in the church. So us bringing these resources and then telling the men that were there, this is yours. You tell us what to do, was really cool, because we got to both bless them materially, but they also got to kind of step up and take the lead on things and tell the Americans what to do, which for me, that was awesome. That was really cool. But combined with that, there was also a good balance, because I was really nervous, having done local stateside missions back in high school. I was nervous that we were just going to spend a bunch of time on good works, benevolence, basically. But it was actually a really good balance between actually doing hard manual labor and also going out into the streets, handing out flyers, actually having Bible studies with people. I had so many Bible studies with people there. I have a lot of really cool stories about that. But one of the things, and I'll end with this, is one of the things that I really appreciate too is the fact that even to this day I'm still talking with the brothers and sisters in Belize through Facebook. I mean, the power of social media combined with Disciple Trips. This isn't just a one-time trip and you're done. You make connections there that will last probably an entire lifetime. And so just the other day, I started talking again with a young man named Marlon in Belize, and we've just been updating each other on life and talking to each other. So don't underestimate the power that something like Disciple Trips can have on behalf of the Lord's work. And I know Bernie and I were both very blessed to be able to be a part of it.
All right, thanks. Thank you, Nathaniel. You guys did a great job. It was so fun to watch you guys there and just how quickly you fit in, and y'all are naturals. And I know you want to do mission work, and hopefully this gave you a really good idea of what God can do. And so obviously we talk about people, places. So the idea, the purpose, of course, is a biblical mandate why we go. But besides just going and making disciples and sharing with people, we also want to invest in the future. And so this is a picture of Fuzzy many years ago. You see him? We actually met Fuzzy, Ray and I, and with Cross Campus, we were doing some youth rallies, and we went to Eastland, Texas, and he was one of the guys there, and quickly we were impressed with him, and he signed up in our little booth, and he actually won our scholarship. He won a $300 scholarship, And he was able to use that that summer, the next year. In July, here he is with us in Antigua. And he just, again, he was a natural and just did a great job, and I'm so proud of Fuzzy. And what was really cool is he learned, again, more about the AIM program. And this is then later that same summer that he decides to come and be part of this, as you guys now know him. So, Fuzzy, come up here and tell us about your journey and how DiscipleTrips was part of that.
So it was actually funny. I don't even know if I was actually supposed to be there that day in November. It was just happen chance that I was actually there. I showed up on the right day at the right time, and my mom was like, "Hey, there's a youth rally going on at our church," and I was like, "Youth rally? We don't ever do that." And so I thought about that. That'd be kind of cool to go to. I knew some people that were going, so I decided to go, and found out about DiscipleTrips. Went to the Velocity Youth Rally, and as it shows, November 2014, I won a scholarship. And it's funny because I'm the kind of person that never wins a scholarship or a raffle or anything, ever. I've never won one, really, in my entire life. And I'm sitting there thinking, why not? What do I have to lose? I never won one anyways. And then I got to thinking, what if I do win? What if I actually win? You get the hopes up, you get that, that feeling in your stomach, like, what if? And, I said a little prayer, and I was like, Lord, I was wanting to go into ministry in some aspect. I wanted to go to Sunset. I didn't really know what I wanted to do, but I thought about it, and I was like, what if I go into missions? What if, And I prayed to God, and I was like, Lord, if I win this scholarship, look, I'm going into missions. I'm absolutely going into missions. And I decided that, and so lo and behold, I win the scholarship, and I'm like, all right, well, I made a promise, so I gotta follow through with it. And so going through, I fast forward a little bit, I talked to my brother-in-law, and him and my sister, they went to Sunset, and I asked him, I was like, is it selfish to want to do AIM and Sunset, the 2-year program? Is it selfish to want both of those? Because I was feeling guilty about it. I was like, I kind of want to do both, but I feel like that would be too much. And he was like, no, man, there's several people that do that. I was like, what? What? People do that? And he was like, yeah, absolutely. So I was like, oh, I guess I don't have anything to worry about. So fast forward to the summer, I've raised the support of, I've worked and everything, got everything ready to go. I go on the trip, and we go to Antigua. And this is the first time I've ever really been, I guess, that far out of the country. I've been out of the country, but never across a body of water or anything like that. And so we go to Antigua, and I could tell you a whole bunch of stuff that we did. We served people. We got to get in the trenches with people, and we did VBS, and we did gospel meetings, and we worked with the community. We did a lot of cool stuff, but I think the coolest thing that we got to do is, it was towards the end, if I remember correctly, but we met with these kids. These kids, they live in a disabled children's hospital, and I don't know, it was a really hard pill to swallow, because you walk in there, and you know why you're there. We knew why we were there. It was to love on these kids, but you don't really understand what you're getting yourself into until you're there, because a lot of these kids, they either couldn't speak, they couldn't walk, they didn't have legs, they were mangled up, they were disabled. And when you see them, and you see what they were born with, or circumstances of their life they have, it hurts, because you look at yourself and you're like, well, I have legs. I have the ability to pick things up with my arms. I have the ability to speak. I have all these different abilities that I take for granted that God has given me, and I look at someone else, and whenever I did, it was like I wanted to cry, because all these things that I've taken for granted. But in that moment, I realized something, that it wasn't about me. That going there was not for my sake specifically. It was about loving these kids. It was about taking myself out of the picture and saying they're more important. And I'd never really done that before. And so having to do that in that capacity, it changed my perspective on service. It changed my perspective on caring for other people. And I can remember just in that moment, just having that wrestling match with myself over, I really wanted to cry, but no, I can't, because these kids are that important. They need somebody to love on them. They want to love on us as well. They were smiling, they were laughing, we were singing to them. It was really good. And then from there, from this one day in November that I wasn't even supposed to be there on, progressing all the way till the first day of AIM, the entire journey, it was just mind-blowing. And now I'm here. And I can remember, I remember very distinctly, like, that would not have happened if that day in November hadn't have happened in 2014. If I hadn't have been there, I wouldn't have learned about DiscipleTrips. I wouldn't have had the desire to join AIM. I wouldn't have had the desire to come back to the 2-year program. Well, I'm technically in the 3, but you get the point. But yeah, looking at what God has done and all that, it's forever impacted my life. And I'll always be thankful for DiscipleTrips, what God does with it.
So Fuzzy's been on this journey with us for a while now, and actually he's our first intern. So it's pretty cool to see how God, again, takes a dream from 25 years ago and brings it forward. Now all these things are happening. Speaking of people, this fall, 2 other young ladies who heard about AIM through DiscipleTrips are coming, and they will sit in these seats. And this is Sasha Chisholm from Vero Beach, Florida, and then Bree Lovelady from Amarillo, Texas. And so we're excited to see these young ladies coming. And again, that's part of what I'm hoping that happens with DiscipleTrips, is that people take the next step in their faith journey and want more. It's just these 1 week trips. It's just a taste, and we're trying to get people's feet wet and get them hungry and wanting more. And again, this is for the average person. So this is not just for students; it's for everybody. Ray Young brings a guy from his church who's 87 years old, young now, whatever. He's amazing. And Elvoy is his name, and he's actually Annie Kakis' grandfather. So it's kind of a neat connection. All right, well, I don't have much time left, and so I got a couple stories. You guys may recall this story. This is Troy from Vero Beach as well. On each disciple trip, we spend some time studying. We are disciples, we're students during the trip as well. And so I was doing a little lesson here in the afternoons, how to share your faith, putting a chain reference in your Bible. And this young man, Troy Wiley, a very shy guy, 16 years old, started coming out of his shell. It was really pretty cool, and out of his comfort zones. And he even stepped up one night for our street preaching, which was really, we were all shocked, because we didn't expect him that he'd be the last one to do this. And he stepped forward to do this. So that's pretty cool. And his mother wrote me a note, and we don't have time. It's in my office if you want to see it. But she was on the trip, and so was Joel, a former Aimer who was his youth minister. Here's a little excerpt from that letter. She says, Thank you for helping me prove to my son that he can share his faith and be confident in doing so. And this has been a life-changing trip. Well, that alone was just great. That was like, man, God is using this. But that's not the end of the story. About a month later, he sends me this Facebook post. And here he is saying, thank you, Jeff, and praise God. And basically, that Bible study we were doing that afternoon, he brought it home, and he used it to teach his girlfriend. And so this is Deja Miller, his girlfriend. Well, the story doesn't end there. He comes back next year. His youth minister's not there anymore. And I asked Troy to step up again. I called him about 3 weeks before, and I said, Troy, I want you to speak one night at our youth night on the beach. And so he's like, oh, I can't do that. I can't do that. I said, I think you can, but you need to just pray about it. So when someone says that to you, just pray about it, man, that's oh, boy, that's hard to, what do you do? Okay. So anyways, there he is. And he not only did that, he spoke one morning and just a bunch of cool stuff. And that's not the end of the story either. Deja, the girl he baptized, is going with us this year back to, so this new sister in Christ is going to go back. And these are the places we're going this year. And a couple more things real fast. This was about 2 weeks ago, a very special time for me. This is me announcing something big, DiscipleTrips 2.0. We're going to start having 2-week trips starting next year. And the first place I want to go is Africa. And so this is a picture of me and my dad. Or my dad and Moses, the guy I taught and baptized as a teenager over there. And so later this fall, a small group of us will go on a trip and get ready to prepare a trip for Botswana the following year. So, and I want to end with this person right here. Many of you know Debbie Board, right? How many of you guys know Debbie? Okay. She she told me, Jeff, I want to go, and so here's some cool pictures of her, and she's just gone on, I think she's already been on 3 trips with me. And I wish I had time to tell you these stories. This story, here she is at the dump. You saw in the video, and there she is passing out water. And Debbie's pretty intense, you know. She could be very intense, and she was really giving that nail the business, all right, when she was building a house. But this picture here kind of says it all for me. She's out reflecting on her last day, and I think the day before, I saw her in a moment, and she was crying. And I went up to her, and I said, "Are you okay?" And she goes, "Yeah, I'm okay. I'm upset." I said, "What's wrong?" She goes, "No, I'm mad." I said, "Well, who are you mad at?" She goes, "I'm mad at myself." I said, "Why?" She had been doing great all that time, and I'm like, she says, I'm just mad at myself because I didn't do this sooner." So we think these trips sometimes don't have an impact, but here's this lady who cleans up y'all's mess. All right? She's doing that all around the world. And she wish she would have done it sooner. So anyways, if you guys have any questions, I would love for you, as you go back this summer, grab some materials from us and take it back to your churches and help us spread the word about Disciple Trips, all right? And I'm going to end now. We're going to have a prayer request. I'm going to ask you to actually pray for my dad, Bill Smith. He's preaching in Hale Center, and he's having some health issues right now. And so anyways, please keep him in your prayers. Thank you.